Hello, and welcome to this Cresfest World. That great funky playing is from the Haas Sisters of the USA, international guests at Cresfest in 2023. My name is Neil Adam, and somehow I got mixed up in the gang that was setting up Cresfest, a music festival which takes place every year in April in Creswick, a small Victorian town 15 minutes from Ballarat, maybe 90 minutes out of Melbourne. Organising a music festival in a small country town puts you in touch with all kinds of interesting people. Some are local, some not. Some are musicians, some are not. Some of the chat is about music, and guess what? Some is not. Welcome to this Cresfest World, episode 24, which of course means there's another 23 for you to go back and have a listen to. Today we're meeting one of the great young bands playing at Cresfest 25. APOLLINE are a three-piece band of young women who are seriously good players and singers. Their music career has quickly taken off at Australian festivals and now overseas. Today we hear from them about the journey so far and from two people who've played a great role in helping them get to where they are. Welcome Tess and Lulu, the two sisters at the heart of APOLLINE.
Our parents are both musicians and music teachers. They've spent their lives playing music and listening to music and teaching music. So we didn't really have a choice in that aspect. Our older brother plays piano. We travelled a lot as a family as kids. We travelled around Australia for very long periods of time, and so that's a lot of time spent in the car together with nothing to do but listen to music. So we spent a lot of our childhood listening to music. A lot of it wasn't actually the music we play now, because we weren't really introduced to it till later. It was a lot of classical music, a lot of ELO and Midnight Oil and various Beatles. Yeah, the Beatles, a lot of those bands.
Bananas in Pyjamas.
A lot of Bananas in Pyjamas, as you can see, heavily influenced our music. But yeah, Mum and Dad have huge passions for music. They've played in orchestras. They have their own school show that they do. So kind of performing, we always performed at birthdays and grandparents' birthdays and Christmas things. We kind of got taught young what it means to play for people, and how playing for people can just bring joy, even if you're 6 years old and terrible at your instrument. It still brings people joy. So we're really, really lucky in that sense. And then, we got introduced to trad music, to Celtic music through the Lake School at Koroit,
It's the Lake School of Irish Music, Song and Dance, and it happens in a town just west of Warrnambool, near Port Fairy, at the first week of every January, January 2nd till 7th. And we had a mate of Dad's who they were mates through cricket or football.
Yeah, something like that.
A sport, but Ewan Baker, and he told him to bring the family along, and that was in 2011. And so that was our kind of introduction to it. Lulu and I went into the kids' fiddle class. Lulu on fiddle, I was on cello. I think we learnt whistle, did the dancing, just did 5 classes a day or something. And
the classic first school experience.
Yeah.
Taking too much under your belt and then freaking out a bit.
But yeah, it just became a yearly thing, and we've been back every year since. There's a whole bunch of friends that we've grown up with there, and it was our first introduction to tunes and sessions, and it was really cool to kind of grow up and look at the sessions at Mickey Burke's, being like, whoa, they're playing really fast and I have no idea what's going on, and now it's like, oh, I actually kind of have an idea what's going on now, and it's quite fun to participate in them. So yeah, it's a really, really fun camp and just awesome community and family vibe. It's just awesome.
We owe a lot to it, because it's kind of the place where we have a lot of our lifelong friends are from there, and going back every year got us really invested in the music.
What's going on?
Yeah, we all had no idea, but there's always space at the Lake School for people wherever you come from. There's always space to get introduced to the music and get completely immersed in it. And it's completely changed our lives.
To find out about the Lake School, let's go straight to the source. Felix Ma.
Well, essentially it was for our children. We had heard about the Willie Clancy School. We had 4 children, and as you are probably empathetic to the situation, as a musician, I had 4 children and a wife mostly at home. So there I was trying to support 4 kids off a musician's wage. But so we had 4, and her sister, my sister-in-law, in a similar situation, living in Koroit with 5 children, similarly struggling financially, as we were. And, I just happened to say, well, I wanted to go to Willie Clancy, and we had a quick look at airfares and thought, oh, well, okay, well, the chances are next to zero.
I think a lot of listeners won't know what the Willie Clancy reference is.
Okay, well, it's a traditional music school where you go and learn music. It's in County Clare. It started. It's named after an Irish piper called Willie Clancy, who was a local, and it started in around I think he passed away in 1973. And soon afterwards, they started the event in his honour and in his name. And we'd heard about it, and we wanted to take our kids. And as I said, we couldn't afford it. And our good friend, our mutual friend, Jamie McHugh, just said, well, why don't you do it here? Throwaway line. So we did. Second year, 25 students. And after 2 or 3 years, we got up to about 100. We started to have an event that had critical mass, essentially, and was gaining momentum.
Right. And so here we are 25 years later. So hundreds of interested young people will have gone through your hands. What kind of things?
Yeah, I mean, I could try and count them. We've probably averaged, we mostly get about 300 students in the last 10 years. So we probably averaged 200 to 250 students. So if you multiply that by 25, what do you get? You get about 5,000 students. Now, many of them are repeat.
Yeah.
So possibly 3,500 people have come for a week to learn traditional music. And we've had, golly, at the moment in a given year we have 35 tutors. So we've probably had 100, 200 tutors as well.
Fantastic. That's an amazing success rate. That's just an unbelievable number of people to have passed through your hands.
It has. And it was interesting because we didn't know, we essentially I learned the gig basically doing it. I had no prior knowledge. We thought we'd be, we won one year, we advertised at Port Fairy and we thought, oh, that'll be good. We'll get a lot of people from Port Fairy, but we didn't. Our audience and our participants were somewhere else.
Yeah.
So stuff like that, there's no one, you can't learn that from a book or from a study. You can only learn it from observation.
Yeah, of course.
And, I'd go to festivals and I'd see, oh, geez, they're mostly older people. And I wonder if, one of the things was right from the very start, we had a very strong kids program, and my wife and Margie Brophy ran that, and they ran it very well. And Lulu and Tess, I know for sure Lulu was about 5 years old when she started at Lake School in the kids program. So that was one. I think another thing is that while we were, and this is sort of more an intellectual thing, but I feel somehow it sort of influenced the event, is that it was never meant to be strictly Irish or strictly this or that. The idea was that the way the Irish learnt their music was the model. The oral learning, the community feel, the fact that the dancers connected to the music. And it's not unique, of course, to Irish at all, but it was more adopting the music, the learning model, and not so much concentrating on what the outcome would be. It didn't have to be strictly Celtic. It wanted to be Australian, or what the players themselves created from that learning model. The story of Lulu and Tess is, I've got to say, you've picked a couple of our star students, so they're very good examples.
Yeah.
There's a very instructive, and when I say they make it their own, as you know, we had COVID in 2020 and 21. Well, our 21 event, because it's in January, was cancelled a day before the event, live. So we did it online. But people like Lou, a whole lot of families that weren't necessarily from Melbourne, were already down there. So they were sort of out of the zone of Melbourne. And they sort of ran their own event. And they were mostly young families. And just by chance, there was about 50 of them. And they had their own event at Crossley Hall. And they just grew incredibly in that year. And the next year, and they went down to Mickey Burke's and ran the sessions, whereas before they'd be probably deferring to older and more experienced players. And the next year they've suddenly grown an arm and a leg, and they're dominating the session. So suddenly we had this group of young people just taking over the event. So that, as I understand it, and from my observations of lots of folk festivals, that is fairly unique. We invite young players that we have seen to form a band. We try and suss out who work well together. We invite them. They have a tutor. They come for the week. They rehearse a repertoire, and they play a concert on the last day of the event. And they've got a regular gig at Port Fairy as well, so they go on to Port Fairy. And as it's turned out, they get gigs at Currawat Irish Festival. Nearly all like APOLLINE have been playing at nearly all the events.
Did that in 2023, which is where you get to rehearse for 4 or 5 days just on your own, we were with Merrin, and you get to rehearse during that time, and you get kind of like tutored, and then at the end you get to do a performance, and then that sets you up. You get a place at Port Fairy. But yeah, and so that was really cool because like we'd seen a bunch of older people go through that program, and then it was like, haha, we get to do it now, and that was really special.
A lot of great bands have come out of that. The Drowsy Maggies came out of that. Tolka came out of that program. We were super, super excited to be a part of the history that program has created.
I've always been heartily impressed with your mum deciding that on her children's behalf she would desert the brass instruments, or not desert, but add on to the number of musical instruments in the house by picking up a fiddle herself, so that you two could take part in it. I mean, is that right, or have I made that up?
Like, she was dropping us to Fiddle Club anyway, and was like, I may as well join in. And so, yeah, that's been really cool. And there's so many families in Fiddle Club that it's really nice to have that vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of I think we joined in 2014 or so. And that was, I think we met Kathy Blake at the Lake School, and she told us to come to Fiddle Club. And so that's been super cool. And that was our intro into festivals. I think the first ever festivals we went to were through Fiddle Club.
Yeah.
And then that's what kind of got us excited about them and thinking, we want to do that with our own group someday. Yeah. And then, we're still in it now. It's a terrific group. If
not for the Fiddle Club, we wouldn't have gone and seen all the incredible Australian folk acts. Because, you're at the National Folk Festival for 5 days. You can't not walk into somewhere and hear some good music. And then, it gave us a space to get comfortable on a stage in an environment where you're not, required to hold the stage and hold the stage presence. You could just be on stage. Although we were all very short, so we all got pushed to the front all the time. We were 8 years old and cute, which I still regret, but now I get to do it to people younger than me, so I like it now. But yeah, by the time we started our own band, we'd already had a lot of experience being on a stage and being at folk festivals, and it was really huge for us. And it's one of the reasons we've been able to apply for so many festivals so quickly. We had a great time.
This seems like a good time to introduce Jack Wilson, the Artistic Director of the Melbourne Scottish Fiddle Club.
When I was 14 or 13, I think it was 2003, I saw the Fiddle Club at Port Fairy, and I thought, whoa, what's this? I thought it was so cool, and I think it was the combination of that and then busking up the street, and Judy walked past, and I was like, that's that lady from the Fiddle Club. and she put a sort of flyer thing in the fiddle case. She didn't put any money, but she put a flyer thing in the fiddle case about the Fiddle Club and join. And I said, Mum and Dad, I want to go. And they were like, okay, we'll get on the website and find out.
And so how many years later is it now?
22.
Wow. So you've been enmeshed in the Fiddle Club for 22 years, Jack.
We call ourselves lifers. Mum and Dad took us to Port Fairy from our whole lives. So, I was kind of lucky that I'd heard, folk music and Irish music and Scottish music, and I'd always liked it. And I started getting lessons when I was 9 at school because, I wanted to play fiddle music, basically. So I started on viola lessons because for some reason they were cheaper than violin lessons. And I think Port Fairy was kind of one of the exposure pathways, and that sort of gave me the bug to like fiddle music. And then I joined the Fiddle Club after I saw them at Port Fairy, and I think it was just the music was so good, just sort of playing with people, and I made friends, sort of from the first meeting. people in the club sort of took me under their wing. You know, I was going to Canberra suddenly to the National Folk Festival. We went away to Benalla for a weekend. Um, and yeah, I think it just sort of started off quite well, being sort of welcomed in and having a lot to start with. And then it just sort of grew from there. You know, we used to do a lot of gigs and a lot of festivals back then. So it was just kind of a fun thing to be a part of. We did the New Zealand tour, you know, in 2005. We did the Tassie tour in 2008. We recorded a couple of CDs in those first years. So I just think there was a lot happening that kind of hooked me and just kept me in the loop. It was very fun.
Tess and Lou talked a lot about the fact that the Fiddle Club gave them the first opportunities to perform in public properly. They'd done bits of stuff through the Lake School, but perhaps talk a little bit about that, because I think in my memory that was an important thing for you, and you know, the opportunity to go home and practice and then come and say, I think I've got this one now, I could do a solo, and you can be given a 3-minute solo and come away from that with more positivity to do a longer one the next time, and so on and so on, and gradually people's confidence in front of audiences build up.
Yeah. I was a very shy child. So I do think that the Fiddle Club kind of helped in that regard with performing and with you know, rehearsals and kind of leading or teaching at the monthly meetings. I do think it helped quite a bit to get that practice and kind of get used to playing in front of people. You know, I did classical music and I played in the Stedfords and at you know, concerts at school, and you know, the string concert and speech night. But I think fiddle music is kind of more personal. You know, you kind of it feels a bit like you're playing in your own voice, and so I think having those opportunities with Fiddle Club in a supportive environment was helpful. To just kind of get used to it and build that confidence. And you know, within a few years I was kind of pairing up with other friends and playing at festivals sort of under my own steam, and I wouldn't have been able to kind of build that confidence and have the motivation. I don't think it's a bit sort of lonelier when you're not doing it with sort of 50 other people who are really nice.
Yeah. I think it's not only to do with playing in public, is it? I mean, you're a very confident person in front of a big crowd now. You know, stick a microphone in front of you and you are not intimidated by the prospect of having to spontaneously introduce something or somebody, and that must have spilled over into the rest of your life. I'm guessing. I don't know whether in your work you have to do presentations and stuff like that. Would you say there's a spillover there?
Extemporaneously.
Yeah.
You know, I think in the early days, you know, Judy, who would lead us on stage, often would kind of just point, you know, with her bow, and then that was it. Was kind of, you just had to do it. And I think, you know, it's kind of exposure therapy in a way. But no, it does, you know, even now, just kind of, it doesn't really bother me that much. You know, I just kind of look at people in the audience and think, you know, wow, these people have kind of, you know, gotten dressed and gotten in their cars and found a car park, and they've bought a ticket and spent their own money, and they've rocked up and they're sitting here because they want to be here. So I just kind of think about that, and, you know, what would I, you know, just how to connect with them, because they're just people sitting there. You know, it doesn't kind of, scare me. And, you know, I think that makes presentations and talking at work and, you know, with university, with, you know, presentations and stuff. It's helped a lot. It really doesn't bother me that much.
I think it's a really major social skill that not everybody has the opportunity to gain. That whole business of standing up in front of a room full of people, whether it's 20 or 2,000, and just to be natural. It's really not a simple task, and the vast majority of the population never acquire it, I don't think.
I wish I could be, maybe I could be a bit more polished, but I do think that, yeah, it does help you to kind of be natural and be okay with speaking in your own voice. It was just immediately obvious that they were incredibly musical. These kids just kind of knew what was going on. You could just tell their brains just had it, and could kind of process everything, in a way that kids that age kind of don't normally do. It's very obvious that they were quite gifted. And yeah, from when they were quite young, Lulu might not have even been in high school, I'm not sure.
No, she wasn't.
Yeah, sort of doing solo. We did a gig at Hawthorne Town Hall. I'm not sure what year, somewhere between 2013 and 2015. And yeah, her and Tess played a set in front of 400 people, I think we had at that concert. And it was what is this? I don't think I'd kind of seen them really do their own thing, and I kind of thought, oh wow, here we go. It was pretty special. I don't know, I think that kind of showed me their talent, and how motivated they were to be sort of doing all this practice and getting so engaged in their own time behind the scenes. And yeah, they just kind of got in front of all those people and just did it, and they just looked really comfortable. I think over the last few years with their band, they've been doing sort of more and more, and they've recorded an EP, and they've been playing at festivals, and they're sort of doing all sorts of things at the moment. It's most weekends they seem to be away playing at festivals, but they still come to Fiddle Club. They still teach and are involved in coming up with rehearsals. I went round and spent an hour and a bit with them yesterday, working on an arrangement and chatting about Fiddle Club stuff. So even as the kind of wide world has opened up and they're doing their own thing, they seem to be very committed to being part of the club, because you make friends and because it sort of becomes part of your life. It is kind of easy to stay in the loop, and I'm very glad that they do, because they offer. So the magic thing about the Fiddle Club is that we're all just people who walked in the door one day. We meet on the third Sunday of most months at North Balwyn Uniting Church, 2 till 5, and we have a very good afternoon tea. Anyone can come who plays the violin or the fiddle. We have cello players as well, and we have other sort of Scottish related instruments and rhythm instruments, harp, piano, guitar, and everyone in the room. We can have 20 to 50 people at monthly meetings just decided to come one day. And so we're very welcoming, we're very friendly, we love eating, we love drinking tea, and we love playing music. And there we've got people who are excellent musicians but very new to Scottish music. We've got people who are very good at music, on other instruments, but sort of new to the fiddle. It doesn't matter. Anyone can come, and we can just sort of figure it out together and have fun.
yeah, we've been lucky to run the kind of youth section of the Fiddle Club the last few years, which we've been involved in since we really started, which is a great space as well in the Fiddle Club for, I don't know what the definition of youth is. It seems...
At the moment, it seems to be like you've got to be
25?
about 5 years younger than the Fiddle Club.
Someone has to call you at some point, and then you're allowed, yeah.
Yeah.
No idea.
I'm assuming we'll grow out of it at some point.
Yeah,
We'll just
not
see
sure
when
when
that
though.
happens.
But it's a terrific space to get to know people your age who you can play tunes with and who you can teach tunes to. So we kind of got our first experience teaching tunes and running workshops in the Fiddle Club as well. Teaching our own tunes, teaching techniques. Tess teaches chopping to the cellos. Tess runs a lot of the cello and the rhythm section stuff. And yeah, now we help out wherever we can in whatever our mother, who's the vice president or something, asks us to do, to be honest.
I think we should explain what chopping is. It sounds like something that happens in the kitchen. Probably in your house it does happen in the kitchen, but we're not actually talking about carrots, are we?
Chopping is a percussive technique used on bowed string instruments. It was originally a bluegrass technique, and it's kind of been adopted into the Celtic style by a variety of people. The first one that I came across, and one of the kind of founding people of it in Celtic stuff, is Natalie Haas, the American cellist, and I learned how to chop partially from people in the Fiddle Club, but also partially from watching her on YouTube. And yeah, it's a really cool kind of sound, and you can add it to a bunch of grooves and shuffling to kind of imitate parts of a drum kit in a way. It just adds like a little bit of a percussive element without being a full-on
without having to lug a drum kit around.
Yeah.
It's partly drum kit, partly rhythm guitar. It's a great combination. So listen, what's the best example of your chopping?
That we've got recorded, probably the start of a track called McPancake. It's a little groove that I came up with that's got a little triple chop in there as well.
Triple chop, that sounds like a large piece of lamb, but I know it's not.
Yeah, we're currently just enjoying playing as many festivals as will have us around Australia. We love travelling, we love road trips, and we love travelling to different parts of Australia and the world. We hope to do more international travel in the next couple years, because there's a lot of music out there that we want to hear, and we want to share our music with as many people as will listen, really. Yeah, we were lucky enough to win the Goderich Celtic and Roots Festival Emerging Artist Award, the Robinson Emerging Artist Award, which brought us over to Canada, and we went festival hopping over there. So we played at Rollo Bay Fiddle Festival, we went to Route 11, and we went to Summerfolk, just to go and listen to all our favourite bands. And then we played at Goderich, which was really special, and we got to meet a bunch of international bands and make some international friends from all over the world, which we hope to visit someday. And it was just the best, to be honest. It was great.
How do you get to win that award? Like, how did they know about you?
So we heard about this award from a friend of ours from Canada. His name is Tom Gammons, and he told us to apply for this. And it's literally like you put in an application and then you get shortlisted, and then there's a voting process. So it's something that doesn't happen here very often, but it happens quite a bit overseas, where It's like a 2-week period, and the public can vote once a day for 2 weeks. So we did this whole kind of campaign thingy online to try and mobilise voting. And then it's a mixture of the vote results and what Goderich want. And they were lucky enough to pick us from...
lucky enough.
Oh my gosh. We were lucky enough that they decided to pick the band from the furthest country away that applied, and they had us anyway, which was nice.
Actually, I think you were right the first time. They were lucky to pick you. I think they got a bargain.
We're a three-piece. Tess is on cello, I'm on fiddle, and we have Laura on bass as well. We met Laura at high school, playing in jazz ensembles and playing in symphonic bands, all on other instruments, really. And we dragged her along to a couple of things, and, you know, she hasn't been able to get out of her contract ever since. She's bound to us by absolute force. We use her for her pretty face.
That's good.
And a double bass.
We went to Blackburn High School, and which had a very strong music program, and has for years and years. We didn't actually really play any of the music we play here at school. We played jazz and we played classical. And so we got a lot of music education through that, but all our trad education came from outside of it.
But it's definitely influenced, like, playing in big bands, and we played a lot of Ellington charts and stuff, and that's definitely influenced our kind of just elements that we bring to our arranging process. And there's definitely bits of it in our playing.
So if I was to ask you what the audience at Cresfest could expect when they came to your gigs, what would you say?
Big mishmash of genres, a lot of tunes, some original songs, probably a bit of bickering on stage, to be honest.
We've got an EP that came out in December 2023, and there's a lot of new repertoire that we really want to get recorded and get out there. So we're really excited for that.
We're going to be working with some people over in Canada to mix and produce it, which is really exciting, and we're still arguing about the order of the track list at the moment and what it will be called and everything else. But it's been a long time coming. A lot of the music has been written over really the last 2 years. So it's going to be quite a big project for us this year. That's our big project for this year that we're really excited about.
In about 1975, I went to see the McGarrigle sisters, fantastic singers and songwriters. I went to see them play in London, and they ended up arguing and throwing stuff at each other on stage. So you really never do know what's going to happen when sisters perform. Tess and Lou are great performers and players, and it was lovely to hear them talk about their journey so far and their plans for the future. Thanks also to Felix Marr and Jack Wilson for talking about the Lake School of Celtic Music and the Melbourne Scottish Fiddle Club. You can find out more about them at their websites, lakeschool.com.au and melbournescottishfiddlers.com. I'd like to acknowledge that this podcast and Cresfest take place on the lands of the Jarrah people, land that was never ceded. They've been singing, making music and telling stories on this land for many thousands of years, and we're very proud to follow in their footsteps. If you've enjoyed this podcast, then please follow us and rate us, tell all your friends. In the words of a great old English broadcaster, a BBC broadcaster who I used to listen to in my childhood, his name was John Ebden, and he used to finish off his programmes by saying, "If you have been, thanks for listening." I'm Neil Adam. See you next time. Bye-bye.